Good morning. Welcome from my side to my presentation of M2, our multifunctional wagon at DB Cargo. I'm pleased to present you on the one hand side the technology itself, but the main focus of my presentation will be what does this technology mean for the market and for the competitiveness of rail freight in the logistics markets. So there's a lot of innovation going on in the railway sector in the past years. It is really a lot, and many of the things are about our assets. If you look at the middle of the picture, you see the GPS, asset intelligence system, sensors, and all that, which is already a thing which is almost done. So we are at the moment equipping the last wagons with GPS devices, and we are providing services for better information for our customers and use the information for better steering of our logistic chains. The digital automatic coupling, the second one on the page, is something which is ahead of us, which is upcoming. And well, there's a lot of energy in this topic because we have a new technology in place. This is the first thing. But the other thing is that the whole sector is well aligned on it and is eager to fight for this innovation in order to achieve a higher degree of automation in the European rail system. I would like today focus on M2, the multifunctional wagon, and we are quite convinced that this will bring us much more competitiveness in order to gain transports from the truck. And how this can be done, I come to now. In the first place, I want to say something about the wagon concept itself. What is M2? It's all about flexibility, and this flexibility has two dimensions. If we look at the pictures, we see on the left-hand side that the upper part of the wagon is separated from the freight loading unit from the wagon, and so can be handled separately. Nevertheless, it looks like a conventional wagon with only this flexibility to separate it. This is the one dimension. The second one is on the right-hand side. You see that the chassis of the wagon is like a modular concept. So it is there are different elements that can be assembled and combined, and we are able by this to create different lengths of wagons without having big conversion efforts, and this very much supports the greater variety of the loading units which will be on the chassis. These are the main two advantages that led to the fact that it's called M2, but there are more advantages to the concept. One really important is that there's a much higher loading capacity of this chassis because it's very lightweighted, and this allows us to even transport very heavy bulk goods in wagon load business. And the freight loading units, which are the interface to the customer, they can be individualized according to the needs of the customers and the requirements of the logistics chain. I will come to that later. Moreover, and this is a very important thing for DB Cargo as a huge network provider on a European scale, the wagon chassis are right away able to run through the single wagon system, which is our backbone of the European network, and many business segments use this system. Therefore, it's important that without any limitation, these wagons can run through the shunting yards. So now I would like to come to the advantages as announced, and here's the overview. I just give you the overview and then go into every single topic a little bit more in depth. First thing is that we can have smart integration with our customers into their supply chains. We can increase the wagon utilization. We can minimize investment risks. Also reduce costs for buying the wagons or acquisition costs. It is easier to repair and maintenance, which is a topic of reduced complexity. So better integration in customer supply chains. I've brought along two examples. One is about the higher weight that can be loaded onto the wagon, depending on the configuration. It's more than 70 tons to be loaded on the wagon, which makes it very attractive for heavy goods like ore, coal, and coke. In our experience, this can bring around 10% more capacity per train, which is an important advantage on the one hand side for the customer, but also for the logistics company. The second thing about better integration is about the freight loading units. As already said, they can be individualized more easily than it was possible with the classic wagons. You see two examples on the pictures, but there's a lot more in the market already in different variations for different types of goods. And what is important that it is easier to put the requirements of the customer, which is more or less what is the requirement of the good that has to be transported in this freight loading unit. Is it like something scrap, or is it a coil? Is it wood or something like that? Can be adapted. This is the one important thing. The other is that the use of the wagon by the personnel of our customers has some requirements that can be put into practice much more easily. At the end, there's also a need for very intelligent handling technology, loading, unloading. Therefore, this optimization of logistic chains is very supported by the new concept of these containers or freight loading units, because they can be variated like it is useful in the chain. Some of the freight loading units, like the scrap container you see on the picture, can be stacked. So there is a possibility to put into practice loading concepts to, for example, load scrap in different kinds in these freight loading units and optimize the transports around scrap logistics. Wagon utilization is an important topic for every RU because it's economically very important. And what we face is, of course, seasonal and economic fluctuations, so volumes going up and down according to different principles. Sometimes we have business where the price is relevant if there's a lot to transport or not so many transports. And the consequence for an RU with many wagons and being a partner in very many segments, like many RUs are, is that part of the year the fleet is standing around, which costs money for the tracks, and there's no possibility to earn money with a wagon in this period of time. Simply cannot use it. For example, if we look at railway construction, when we are in winter time, there is no railway construction business possible, and therefore the whole fleet is parked. Tomorrow we have a chance to change that, because the chassis can be used for other business as well. So you can remove the freight loading unit for the, let's say, railway construction, and put a different one on the wagon, and it's running for another business. This is a very important advantage. Of course, you have to have a concept for storing the freight loading units, which also costs a lot, but to sum it up, it's much more economic, reasonable to do it like on the right side. Minimized investment risk. Yeah, if you're thinking about investing in wagons which are specific and have it in your fleet for 35 years, there's always a risk in it, because you don't know if the requirements of the customers will change during that long period of time, or that the business and the structures as we have it today, when you decide to invest, are still valid in the future. So sometimes if there are 10-15 years over, you see the wagon is no longer good for the market, there are different requirements, or the flows have changed or whatsoever, and then you start to rebuild the wagon for a lot of money. So in the future, the wagon chassis is still a ECM wagon that will be there can be operated for 35 years. But as it is used for cross-industry transports, you can minimize the risk that the wagon is standing around with no use. If we look at the right side, we have the freight loading unit, which is following a container regime and is not part of the wagon, and has a life cycle of, according to the complexity, 5 to 10 years. And this shorter lifetime is also good for having innovations with this freight loading units, but also lowers the risks for investments. Reduced acquisition cost. So this is really a thing which is, I think, innovative in the wagon world, because this modular set you see on the picture is also something that will be approved by the ERA, which is at the moment being prepared right now. So we want to apply for an approval as a modular system, not as a specific type of wagon, which means if we want to change the length of the wagon within the life cycle, we do not have to go back to ERA and have again an approval. It is approved right away. Of course, this drives the complexity of the approval process today, but has big advantages for the future. Moreover, it is possible to source the components you see there and not buy, as we do it today, complete wagons. So there is a completely different sourcing strategy possible. Less complexity in maintenance. We at DB Cargo, we always seek for reduction of complexity, which is not so easy if you have a European network and so many business segments using it. One symbol for that is the variety of the fleet we have today. So we have around 100 wagon types, and there below these wagon types we have more than 200 types of construction. In German it's Bauart. Don't know if that's the English translation that is correct, but that brings a big variety in maintenance regimes, in spare parts, and not to forget all the keepers who run through our maintenance shops due to the GCU regime with other types of construction and other spare parts. So we have today a high cost factor. If you go to a workshop and look at all the different types of wagons running through, you can see that. So there's a big chance for tomorrow to standardize the wagon chassis and not only to align on a concept or one or two concepts whatsoever, but also to assure that there is a high degree of the same components in the wagons, like buffers, for example. I know that it's an old wish we have, but I think now with this new concept we have the chance and maybe also the task to seek for these standardization topics in the sector, as we have lots of circles where we can do that. And it is worth it as we looked at our fleet at DB Cargo and checked which part of the fleet can be replaced in the future by M2. We found that it's up to 70% of DB Cargo's current fleet, and that's quite a lot and something, which we are really eager to drive for. So what's the conclusion? Well, I start as a salesperson with a customer. The first thing for me is always that we can optimize together with the customer the logistics chain, and which brings us at the end more competitiveness. Then we have a competitive position to gain growth. If we want to compete against truck transports, we have to seek for these advantages to get the growth, and we cannot also only get growth with the customers we already have. We need new customers we gain from the truck transport. I think this is a good contribution M2 can give to this goal. And at the end, this goal gives a contribution to the very important climate objectives we as rail transport have, and the big chances we have in that. But I will not neglect that there's also means change, and it's a fundamental change we have in our key business processes on the keeper side, on the railway undertaking side. We at DB Cargo are in the process to check what that means in all respects, and if you look at the core processes of maintenance, of wagon disposition, of fleet planning, you come to the point then that there has to be a big change to be made. But nevertheless, this effort seems to be very worthy, because the goals we can achieve with that are very positive and can bring us in a better position. And therefore, I think it's worth it. This is in a short overview what we have and what we think we can achieve with that. I hope that this helped you to get a good impression on the concept and the chances. I'm now done with the presentation, and I'm happy to hear your questions and have a discussion with you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hilb. It was very, very interesting to see this completely new M² concept of the wagon. And I want to add the first question. You have not only a single innovation, you have just bundled lots of innovations. For instance, you mentioned several times the digital automatical coupling. All the signals are green for this coupling, but it doesn't exist today. It's just for the near future innovation where everybody is waiting for. And I think you don't want to wait as long with the M² wagons to put it into the commercial service. How do you cope with this problem that the DAC will come some years later than your M² product?
Yes, thank you, Professor Hecht. You're right. There's so many innovation around the wagon. I'm really happy about that. And the timeline for this innovation is quite different, and you need all of them. We are very, very eager to have this automatic coupling. I would like to have it tomorrow, but apparently we have to wait for the suitable technology. Therefore, our strategy with M² is that we prepare the wagon for technical wise in order to be able to easily implement the DAC in this wagon. And there's, I think, an important aspect where the M² and the DAC can be combined in a fruitful manner. because we are facing some problems in terms of the migration phase, where you have a mixture of wagons with or without DAK, and we face the problem that we have to invest for a new coupling system in partly very old wagons. And if we, in parallel or upfront, exchange a big portion of the fleet, we can, I think, have an easier introduction of the DAK.
Okay, thank you. There are lots of questions now from the auditorium. One is very, very short. Is the M square also suitable for tank wagons?
Yes, as I said, there's a lot of dynamic in the market already for inventing new freight loading units. And we see already examples where tanks were developed and provided to the market, one for chemical products and one for water products. So this is underway, and I think it's apparent that also in this segment where there's a lot of safety requirements around the transport and where we have a heavy load, the advantage of M square can be used for that.
Okay, another short question. You showed that the length of the wagon can be adjusted, and but how long does it take to adjust the wagon length, and where is it to be done?
I don't know the English word for this this technical item, making it possible that you have this components linked together. But it's we think that it can be easily done also in regular workshops. You don't. We think that we don't need special manufacturers for that. So also when we are thinking about buying new wagons, we can buy components and then maybe in our own workshops put them together with these, I don't know the English word, maybe somebody knows, bolzen. This is the technology which makes it, gives us the possibility to have more providers for that service.
Okay. Yes, and will it take 2 hours or 5 hours or half an hour?
It's quite some hours because you have to destroy the old ones and put new ones in, but it's not a very big issue. So it can be done in half a day, let's say. I don't know. We have no experience so far, but we think that this will make life much easier. We don't intend to change it all the time, by the way, because we have the possibility to use it for many configurations of freight loading units already. And so we don't want to do that every 2 weeks or so.
Okay. And now a very basic question about the approval process. Are the modules required to be approved as part of the wagon approval process, or are they classified like a container?
The freight loading units is not part of the wagon, and even parts of the wagon are not in this ERA permission process. So this is an advantage because the ECM world offers lots of requirements if you want to change something. So if we have a wagon for clay and we want to remove the roof, we have to go to the EBA or ERA and have to ask for permission and have an administrative process for that. And the container regime makes it much more easier to be quick. And our markets want us to be quick. And that's, I think, a main breakthrough in this technology. So the permission is only with the wagon and this modules of the wagon.
Okay, thank you. Then the next one is which facilities are required to replace the wagon units from the chassis, and how much time is it used? Is it similar to container, or is it a more complicated link between the underframe and the superstructure?
We are thinking about having two base types of freight loading units. The one is a big one, which is like a copy of the today's big wagon. So we have just introduced a wagon for pelletized good, which is similar to our HA wagon. To remove this freight loading unit, it takes slightly more than having a reach stacker bringing a container from one side to the other, but not much more time. Just a little bit more because it's very long and you have to separate it a little bit. But we are always thinking about, or we're starting to think about how to produce smaller freight loading units that can be put on the truck. And we want to handle them as easy as regular containers. So this will be the technology of the shifting has to be as easy as it is in container business today.
To this, just a question about the numbering system. I think the underframe has a number as a freight wagon today in the system. Containers are completely different. What's about with your loading units? Are they inside the railway number system or are they separate as containers?
I'm not quite sure about that. We are having already these containers in use. I think they are separate. That's a separate thing, and this is one of the main process changes we face. So I'm responsible for the wagon disposition today, and tomorrow we will have two parts of the wagon that will be separated and come together. So the task is quite different, and our systems and our processes has to be adapted.
Yes, there's a next question. The organization of the maintenance workshops for sure have to be adapted also. Are there also some ideas how to do it, how to alter it? The unions also will be interested in this.
They are very interested, of course.
Yes.
And this is, we are just having set up a big program to figure out all these things. And yes, there are ideas. But the task is quite complex. You have, on the one hand side, the chance to reduce the complexity in the workshop. And this is one of the very important goals, I think, for the whole sector, that complexity is lowered by standardized equipment. On the other hand side, you have to install new possibilities for maintenance in these places where you handle it. It makes a lot of sense to combine the shift of the freight loading units with maintenance tasks, because you only need, you don't need a big workshop for that. It's also much easier, and if you handle them, you can then repair them right away with the same staff or so. That's the direction in which we think.
There is no more time left for further questions. I have to thank you, and we are very, very well prepared now for this future improvements, and we are looking very much for the future, and also are keen on which new products will come to rail transportation, and also how single load travel will be boosted by this M-square modules. Thank you again, and also for this open discussion and this very good information. Thank you very much, Ms. Hilb.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Hecht, and the audience, and thanks for the good feedback.
Yeah.